Flip on a TV, crack a newspaper, get online, and you see America's collective outrage over the skyrocketing cost of EpiPens. But let's flip the script, crack into some public records, and get real about what's actually happening. Before it became fashionable to be outraged about this, the company that makes EpiPens spent millions on politicians, physicians, and getting some very friendly coverage from the press. Let's go in depth now with investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen from our 9 Wants to Know team to learn what all was happening before this became national news.
Mylan Pharmaceuticals does
anaphylactic shock.
Pharmaceuticals makes
The medicine has skyrocketed.
Whoever said there's no such thing
That's what we announced today.
as bad publicity
It's also doubling the eligibility for its
never envisioned this.
Mylan Pharmaceuticals.
Mylan,
by the way, has a $100 coupon online.
Welcome to the world of the Romeros. Brendan, Bryson, Brooke, Brody, and Mommy.
But you have to sit quietly, okay?
A more patient woman
Yes, you can have a popsicle.
you will not find.
Okay, stop touching, turn around, and sit. This is normal, right?
Yet when she learned Mylan wanted $1,200 for the two packs of EpiPens her family needs, even she found her patience running out.
Yeah, no problem. That's just a house payment.
A house payment for a drug that was discovered when William McKinley was president in 1900.
It's shocking, you know? It's something I wasn't expecting.
Truth is, many of us weren't suspecting, but maybe we should have suspected something.
2007, the year Mylan bought the rights to the EpiPen. Back then, the cost a little more than $100 for a 2-pack. Shortly thereafter, Mylan became very active in lobbying politicians. Our investigation found a $250,000 annual federal lobbying budget ballooned into $1 million plus. And Congress listened. In 2013, the president signed the School Access to Emergency Epinephrine Act, a well-liked law that just so happened to benefit Mylan.
Oh, of course it did. Of course it did.
One-time pharmaceutical company manager Bud Belanich now teaches at the Daniels College of Business at DU.
If you look at it strictly from a brand awareness and a marketing standpoint, it was brilliant.
Brilliant, particularly because no one thought to ask about price. And Mylan was on the move, raising it in 2013 to $260. That same year, we found Mylan started large giveaways to doctors. $600,000 in 2013, $1.1 million in 2014, and $1.2 million last year.
Food-induced anaphylaxis occurs in...
Some docs showed up on TV talking about EpiPens. Few were ever asked.
You can have very severe reactions.
If the payments represented
food allergies,
any potential conflict. Some shows even appeared to take Mylan's script
It's estimated that
1 in 13 children in the United
word
States live
for
with a
word.
food allergy that puts them at risk
for a life-threatening allergic reaction.
Maybe we could have asked the doctors why in 2015 the cost had jumped to $446. No one really did. And then
my name is Bruce Lotted. I'm the Vice President of State Government Relations for Mylan.
In 2015, it sent a lobbyist to Colorado to ask for a new law.
House Bill 1232 will expand access to this critical medication.
By then, Mylan controlled 90% of the injectable epinephrine market, and no one seemed to care.
It seems to me that the company, in this case, has actually taken advantage of the law and raised prices, particularly when there's no real competition.
Of course, now the prices climbed into the $600 range, and suddenly there's outrage.
The price of the EpiPen
retail price is
blamed the
$700.
price hikes on health
you're
care.
making $18 million a year. You understand how that looks.
Just know two of the most angry members of the Senate today, Democrat Patrick Leahy and Republican Chuck Grassley,
Mylan had the guts to move this price up so rapidly.
Our investigation shows both took thousands from guess who. A good product, yes. One even saved.
He started kind of passing out, and so we rushed him to the hospital, and... You.
Saved one of Alyssa Romero's sons. She just wishes someone would have started to care before a house payment ever became the measuring stick for a life-saving drug. For Next, I'm Chris Vanderveen.
Senator Grassley's office did tell us the payment that the senator received from Mylan didn't influence him in any way. Now, we've also reached out to the company, to Mylan. We've yet to hear back. Yesterday, it announced that it would offer a generic EpiPen for half the cost. Why Mylan never offered that beforehand, before the outrage? We'll ask them that if they get back to us. None of the 1,000 government workers at the Fort Collins Natural Resources Research Center are going back to work, not until the FBI figures out what's happening. The center near CSU is one of 6 U.S. Department of Agriculture offices across 5 states that are closed today due to threats. The government workers there are being told to stay home until the FBI determines if those threats are credible. All right, is the A-line working today? Are we talking mechanically or philosophically? Because mechanically, yes, it's working today. But RTD is withholding a bit of money from its private contract partners because of the performance issues with the train to the plane. RTD says that it's docking Denver Transit Partners $65,000, a performance deduction for those contractors. It is the maximum that can be contractually withheld for the problems that the A-line saw between April and July. The $65,000 comes out of Denver Transit Partners' $10 million payment. So real people numbers now, that's like if your kid gets a $10 allowance and when they screw up, you withhold 7 cents. That'll teach them. A bunch of Democrats gathered at Union Station this morning to hear a Republican speak. Even Governor Hickenlooper was there to listen to Hillary Clinton's not-so-secret weapon. Meg Whitman made her first public campaign appearance for Clinton. The former eBay CEO now runs Hewlett-Packard. I was curious whether she's angling for a cabinet post if Clinton wins. Commerce Secretary, perhaps.
You know, we'll see what happens. Listen, I'm very committed to Hewlett-Packard. The company's, doing very well now, and, love my life in California.
That was not a no. And just a bit, our in-depth conversation with Meg Whitman. It's really interesting to hear her talk very much like a Republican about people left behind during the last 8 years of the Obama administration. But then she points to Clinton as the answer. And there she stood this morning in front of Clinton campaign signs, talking about how she hopes to rebuild her beloved Republican Party. Our discussion is coming up. We have a personal request to pass along tonight from the friends of the 17-year-old killed in West Denver by an alleged drag racer. Forget that driver. Remember Nick Riching. Remember Nick, the artist. Remember his work. Remember the knack that he had for painting. Even his commissioned graffiti work is street art around town. 4 of his friends are choosing to remember Nick by wearing his signature, a final piece of his art. Wear it on their bodies for life.
I'll never forget him. I have him right there with me all the time. Yeah, he was just an all-around artist. Did pottery. He was amazing at everything. The 17-year-old accused of hitting Nick on Sunday night was arrested. Police tell us they're still looking for the driver who was the other half of that drag race. 20 years before Colin Kaepernick set social media and talk radio on fire by refusing to stand for the national anthem, a Denver Nugget did basically the same thing and watched his basketball career crumble.
It's constitutional to burn the flag, so why give me a problem for not standing? I come to play basketball, so watch me play basketball.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf is defending the 49ers quarterback. He posted on Facebook in part, "Mr. Kaepernick is not in need of my voice to validate his position in not standing for the national anthem. He has reached that decision and courageously executed it on his own, and the stated reasons for him not doing so I agree with 1,000%. Abdul-Rauf continued, "His struggle to question reality and not allow his brain to be gift-wrapped with the flag of a patriotism that blinds him to reality is something to be admired, and I, for what it's worth, am an admirer." Kaepernick's refusing to stand for the national anthem in protest of how blacks are treated in America, specifically by police. Now, we've received a lot of feedback from you on Kaepernick's decision, perhaps in part because of just how close he came to joining the Denver Broncos during the offseason. There was one piece of feedback, one email that really stood out, so much so that we drove up to Fort Collins to meet the author, Sydney Bianchi.
We as a country have a terrible problem with racial inequality. We do need to have conversations about it. More importantly, we need to work together to come up with solutions that will start healing. We need to end the violence. That said, to me, the national anthem is about freedom and the men and women who have fought for it for hundreds of years and the thousands who paid the ultimate price for that freedom. Friday night, Colin remained seated for the national anthem, his right, his choice, his freedom to express how he feels. And it did start a worthwhile and important conversation. Early Sunday morning, while we were all sleeping, my son and his unit moved deep into Iraq. I found myself thinking about how I feel when I hear the national anthem and how much it means to me to see everyone standing with their hands over their hearts when it plays. I think about our military men and women every day who are all over the world right now, defending our country and that very freedom that Colin was able to express. I pray for their safety and thank everyone for supporting our troops.
We will regularly make room for opinions and perspectives like that here on Next. More than a soundbite, chance to really express yourself about something that matters in your life. You can get in touch with us anytime about anything. Email next@9news.com or get our attention on social media with the hashtag HeyNext.
While I don't agree with everything that Hillary Clinton proposes, I agree with lots of things that she proposes.
A well-known Republican is hitting the campaign trail for Hillary Clinton. First stop, Denver, and a conversation with Next. A promise is kept as a 14er is climbed with the help of a woman's third heart. And that smell at DIA, you know what I'm talking about, that airport smell. We finally know what it is. Journalism that really matters. Next.
Hello, welcome back. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. And those dark clouds out there over Denver mean rain for some of you tonight. Up on Pikes Peak, several inches of snow this morning, looking very much like fall on some of our Front Range foothill. Just some of those higher peaks, really dramatic scene. And then down low with the thunderstorms, the lightning, the wind, the rain, it's really been just so beautiful the last couple of days. If you don't have to drive in it, and our rain forecast models really not overexcited about the moisture coming in the next 24 hours, which is great news. The thunderstorms that are developing today are moving very erratically around the area, but they're packing some hail and some heavy rain, and there will be a front that's coming in tomorrow, and that will cool temperatures off just a little bit. Not a bad looking forecast as we move through the last few days of August and head into a nice holiday weekend. Isolated storms early tonight, then clearing, our forecast low at 54. Tomorrow, a little bit drier, but temperatures may be down a degree or two for some areas. Then we warm right back up again. The best chance for thunderstorms this week will be on Friday. Your holiday weekend looks good right now, mild and dry with highs between 85 and 90 degrees. So safe to make those plans now.
I understand that the crime aspect is important, but Colorado has so much more to offer. And I would like people to see that side of Colorado instead of the negative side of Colorado.
Evelyn Meeks, you are exactly right. Carolyn Meyer climbed the first 14er of her life over the weekend, and she gets a shout out here on the news because she did it with her third heart. She's celebrating 1 year post-op after her second heart transplant. Caroline was a long way from the summit of Mount Bierstadt this time last year. At 28 years old, she went in for a heart transplant. Her body rejected that heart, and she was on life support for 5 days as doctors found her a second match, a much better match. The heart that is giving her new life and no excuses.
I was so weak, had lost so much muscle mass and weight. I remember saying to myself, if I ever get to move out to Colorado, like I'm climbing a 14er, I'm gonna make it happen on my year anniversary. I made it happen, so it was incredible. You know, I don't personally know who my donor is, but you know, their life was cut short, and I feel like, you know, I was given a second chance with their heart, and I want to live my life to the fullest, and you know, not only for myself, but obviously for them, because they didn't get that opportunity.
If you're on heart number 1 and you're looking to tackle your first 14er, start where Caroline did, if your health allows. Mount Bierstadt is a challenging, but it's a doable climb of 14er. Ever touch down at DIA, walk into the concourse and get a big whiff of home, and home smells just like the bathrooms at the airport? You know what I'm talking about. There's a Reddit thread that's going nuts over the air fresheners at DIA, so we decided to dedicate our vast journalistic resources at Next to getting a firm answer. And the answer is called Black Bamboo, serviced by Airmaster. It's the scent in the airport bathrooms. The website that sells it calls black bamboo a combination of green bay leaf, balsam, juniper berry on a foundation of warm musk and amber woods. One Redditor wrote, "I know that sounds weird, but it's one of those scents that just sticks with you. Not the typical bathroom air freshener smell. Maybe it's because it's always the smell of home after a long day of traveling." Smell of Home spokesman Heath Montgomery says the airport actually gets a lot of compliments from passengers about that omnipresent bathroom scent. We are at your disposal to hunt down weird facts and the answers to questions that you were afraid to ask. You can get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext or email next@9news.com. A prominent Republican is in town trying to get Hillary Clinton elected. Does that prove Donald Trump's point? Republican Meg Whitman is willing to support a Democrat so long as she promises the status quo for people with money. Our conversation with the CEO of Hewlett-Packard next. And a lemonade stand run by a young man just looking for friends. Spoiler alert, help is secretly on the way. Political experts across America were closely watching the basement of Union Station today. A landmark moment in this presidential campaign happened there. Hillary Clinton's campaign held its first public event featuring a Republican endorser. Meg Whitman, CEO of Hewlett-Packard, former GOP gubernatorial candidate in California. We caught up with her beneath Union Station in what looks a lot like a subterranean lair. You have quite comfortably made the case against Donald Trump for some time now. Are you equally comfortable making the case for Hillary Clinton?
I am comfortable making the case for Hillary Clinton. I mean, they are related, right? Because one of these two individuals is going to be president, and my view is that Hillary would make the far better president. And really for two reasons: temperament, stability, leadership experience. And then frankly, I think the economy is so important to the United States. I think she will be better for business, for job creation, and for small business.
I could see Trump supporters saying, well, there's the problem. Republican Meg Whitman is willing to support a Democrat so long as she promises the status quo for people with money.
So I would argue that Hillary Clinton is not about the status quo at all. She is about reaching those individuals who have been left behind. I mean, if nothing else is clear about this election, it is there is a group of people who are not better off than they were 8 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. They've been left behind by globalization, by startups disrupting old industries, and frankly, by much more competitive countries around the world.
When you look at home in California and across the country, what's happened to your party?
Yeah. Well, I think the party is struggling for an identity. And I think if Donald Trump loses, the party has to think about, how do we rebuild? What are we going to stand for?
Will you stay in the party to be part of that process?
Yeah, I mean, I am a Republican. I am still a Republican, even though I'm supporting Hillary Clinton, because I thought in this election we needed to put country before party. And yes, I'd be, very interested in helping to rebuild the party, because I think the Republicans stand for a lot of really important things. But we need to rebuild, refocus, and get our message just right for the 21st century.
Meg Whitman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're back with the sweeping emergency response for a young man in need of a friend. This next story isn't about a police officer in trouble, a teacher who got caught cheating, or a nurse stealing drugs. No, this next story is about a public servant doing the right thing. Like 99% of them do every single day and never make the news. They are the good ones, and they're almost all good ones. Jonah's lemonade stand wasn't doing so well, even at 25 cents a cup and free refills. Jonah, you should know, has high-functioning autism, which is neither here nor there. It just means that when Jonah puts himself out there, it'd be nice if people responded with kindness. But the 6-year-old from Lafayette was just sitting and waiting on a recent hot day, all by his lonesome, until his grandma made a call to the city's non-emergency line. A stream of first responders responded to make a little boy's day. First, a sergeant from the Lafayette Police Department, then came the fire engine, then a fire engine tour, then the firefighter's jacket and the hat. And that is how Jonah's day was saved. His letter says it all. It made me feel happy and special. And a quick note, I missed a syllable in former Denver Nugget Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf's name. Thanks, Jared and Rocco, for looking out. We'll see you next time.